All right, welcome to the Snowflake Sports Podcast. It is 9:09 Eastern Standard Time, but 6:09 West Coast time because we've got our West Coast specialist, Joe Crespo, coming out of Los Angeles. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, I'm doing fine. How's it going, Dan?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. So what is on the agenda today is the Jamal Adams trade to the Seattle Seahawks. A bunch of Patriot players, who's Joe's favorite team, are opting out of this season, including Patrick and Dante Hightower. Kyrie Irving gives $1.5 million to WNBA players who would sit out of the rest of the season. Knicks hire Tom Thibodeau. Lou Williams strip club dinner. MLB restart and Seattle protests. So lots to cover. And also the NBA starts on Thursday, so I'm excited. I know Joe's excited.
Absolutely.
All right, let's
got
get
the
into
Lakers
it.
or Los Angeles. We'll get to it later, but
I cannot
LA,
wait.
Clash right there.
What a great way to start the season.
Yeah.
All right, so Jamal Adams trade. So the Seattle Seahawks traded away safety Bradley McDougald. Is that how you say it? Or Dougal?
I think so. McDougald, maybe?
Okay. 2 first-round picks in 2021 and 2022. A third-round pick in 2021 for Jamal Adams, and the Jets' 4th-round pick in 2022. All right, Joe, so who won this trade?
I think it's tough to tell right now who won. Obviously, that's typically how trades go. But I think you'd appreciate, you're a Bills fan, I'm a Patriots fan. We both hate the Jets, right? We hate their guts.
Yep.
I especially hate Jets fans because back in like high school, early college, they were always the ones that were, because Bills fans at that point, the Bills had done nothing for years and years. The Dolphins weren't good at all either. Jets fans though were always the one that were always talking shit and just being generally annoying. And every year they still would suck, and they just would never let up. So me hating the Jets, I'm gonna say that the Seahawks won the trade. They definitely lost. But joking aside, obviously Jamal Adams is a great player. He's like insane. The Seahawks, they needed someone on their defense to step up. They need a leader on their defense, right? They lost basically everybody from the Legion of Boom. And I think Jamal Adams can step in and bring a lot of ferociousness to the defense. I think it's a good move for the Seahawks because their window for a Super Bowl is kind of shorter, I would say now. Especially after this trade, giving up 2 first-round picks in the next couple years. They're in a win now mode, so I think this trade it can pan out potentially. Russell Wilson, a really, really amazing quarterback, and he pretty much lifts up the team. They'd be really bad without him, right? So I think for the Seahawks, it makes sense. They are trying to win now. If they win a Super Bowl in the next 2-3 years, this is a win for them. As for the Jets, they got a lot of potential trade fodder, but also first-round picks to turn into top talent. However, the Jets don't typically have a good history, I would say, of making good picks, and if they do, keeping them. So I don't know. I don't think you can trust the Jets front office or their coaching really to make these picks worth it. That's why I kind of think the Seahawks won the trade. I just don't think the Jets are competent enough to use these picks to build for the future well enough. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually like it. So I thought that like the whole world thought the Jets won this trade. They're like, oh, there's 2 first round picks. Like it's too much for Jamal Adams. And I felt like a lot of people were like relating to the Jalen Ramsey deal with the Rams, how they gave away 2 picks and everything. But I just like your point on like it's the Jets. Like they don't really know how to
It's the
draft well.
Jets.
And the Seahawks are going to be good. Like the Seahawks have Russell Wilson, and it doesn't really matter what else you do. Like he will at least win you 11, 12 games. Like especially with
Yeah.
like Tyler Lockett, they have like a spiritual connection to each other. Um, their defense is always going to be good. I feel like even if they don't have like the pass rush has been kind of lacking recently, but like I feel like as a unit itself, it's never like bad. And it's just like so they're gonna have high first round draft picks, and it's like if they're gonna miss out anyways, so like there's really no like well I mean loss for the Seahawks 'cause
True,
they
right?
might actually draft well.
hmm
But like they're in an absolute win now mode. Like they and like comparing this back to the Jalen Ramsey trade, like I feel like Seattle is much closer to winning the Super Bowl than the Rams are. Just because
Now, for sure.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's pretty much just Russell Wilson. I mean like because like the talent on the Rams I feel like is comparable. But like they cannot waste another Russell Wilson season. And this is a way to shore up their defense. They're totally in like a win now. It's a huge gamble, but like that's just what you got to do to try to win the Super Bowl. You don't want to do what the Packers do and just like consistently try to be mediocre or something. Like just go for it. Go for the whole thing. And like I don't know. I just feel like Jamal Adams helps you out. He definitely like is an improvement to your current team. So
Absolutely. I mean, he's the one player on the Jets that like I said, being a Pats fan, hating the Jets, he's the one player that I was always looking at and like, wow, this dude's awesome. He's cool. He's really active on Twitter.
Yeah,
he's like funny and everything. Like he doesn't. I don't know, but maybe he does. But to me, he doesn't seem like an asshole necessarily. He's just kind of like a jokester maybe guy, but he's like serious about football and is like really good at the game. Puts up insane stats. So, I mean, I don't see him not performing well on the Seahawks, especially because they're a defensive minded team. So, I mean, it's gotta work out well for the Seahawks. Not saying they'll win a Super Bowl, but he's the type of player that can put them over the hump to like competing for the championship.
Yeah. Well, right, like I mean, 49ers will be great again.
Yeah, true.
Packers,
They're in a really strong division.
yeah, true. Like Arizona should improve with Hopkins.
Mhm.
And the Rams being the worst team in that division is like insane when you think about
That's
it.
unthinkable
Yeah.
from 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And then just with like Jamal Adams too, what surprises me every time I watch him is I feel like he just gets so many like forced fumbles. Like he just like punches in there, and it like always comes out. And like people always try that, and it just I feel like he's so strong and he's like so technical in that like maneuver that he makes like an elite safety. So I don't know. I'm excited because he'll be on a team that he wants to be with, so maybe he even will play harder. So are we going to see a better Jamal Adams? And
Maybe.
the Jets don't have their best player anymore, so this is great. They'll be worse next year.
Who is the Jets' best player now? Is it Sam Darnold?
I guess because
He?
they got rid of Robbie Anderson, right? So they have like no wide receivers.
Mhm.
They drafted Quentin Williams, right? Like defensive tackle.
Oh yeah, they have Quinnen Williams.
He should be okay. He might be their best player now.
He might be. That's true.
Oh wait, no, they got C.J. Mosley. He's better if he's healthy.
Yeah. Okay. I see that.
And he's more of like a veteran. He's not like a second year dude. But I don't know. The Jets were like 6-2 or like 5-3 in the last 8 games last year, so maybe they have a team. Maybe Sam Darnold is better than we think.
I don't know. I don't never trust Adam Gase.
Never trust. Yeah.
Never trust Adam Gase. I mean, shit. Jamal Adams was talking shit about Adam Gase on Twitter like the past few days or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or last week. I don't remember when, but pretty recently. He just doesn't believe in him. I don't think most people that are football fans believe in Adam Gase.
Oh, not at all. I don't even think Jets fans believe in Adam Gase.
You know, I gotta talk to some of my friends that are Jets fans and see if they actually do believe in Adam Gase or not. Because I don't know anybody who does.
Right.
Who believes in him and thinks he's a good coach or anything.
Yeah, no. All right, so moving on to your New England Patriots. They had a banner day today. So they had officially 6 players opting out of this year's possible NFL season, including big names such as Patrick. And so is it Donta or Dante?
Dante.
Dante, okay. Dante Hightower. So both were legitimate reasons to Hightower just welcomed a new child to his family, and Patrick Chung just had a second child and currently lives with his 80-year-old father. So like these are perfectly legitimate reasons, and I think the NFL broke it up so you can opt out if it's a legitimate medical concern. I think it's $350K you get paid for the season, and if it's not, you still get $150K, which I don't know, that's a ton of money anyways in general to at least get you by.
True.
So I mean, just being a Patriots fan, what are your thoughts about these players sitting out?
Man, this would happen today on the day that I'm going to be on your podcast. There
Right,
was
yeah.
no Patriots news in the past, couple weeks other than Cam Newton. And then, boom, today, all these players, 6 players, opting out of the season. 2 of them being really good players, like key players, especially Dante Hightower for their defense. Like, he's the leader. He is the man. And he's made so many plays during his tenure with the Patriots. Like, he had the fumble in the Super Bowl against the Falcons that they recovered when they needed something to go their way, to help bring them back and win the game eventually. Patrick Chung's he's a good player. He's not like a full-time starter. I think he at least the past couple seasons he would switch time out with Duron Harmon, I believe, but he's an impact player. That definitely hurts the defense. What's crazy though is that there's so many other players, at least in the secondary, that you can still count on, like our players like Stephon Gilmore and the McCourty brothers. Like their secondary is still going to be good, but for linebackers, at least inside linebackers, which is Hightower's position, they don't have really anybody to fill that gap other than Juwan Bentley, he was promising in his first year a couple years ago. Maybe he'll fill that in, but after losing Jamie Collins and who was the other middle linebacker that we lost?
Right?
Yep, Van Noy.
Yeah.
Like, after losing some big name linebackers and then Dante Hightower leaving, it's their linebacker core is looking pretty unproven and young. That's what I'll say. Unproven and young. They also lost Brandon Bolden. He's a backup running back. Mostly played special teams. He's a good player, but we have a lot of running backs that'll fill the void. So that's not a huge loss. Marcus Cannon, right tackle. That's a potential big loss. So I don't know. I think Newhouse is still on the team. Maybe he'll fill in there at right tackle. And Danny Vitale, he's a fullback. We have Jacob Johnson from last year, a German player. So I think that'll be fine. And Najee Turan, guard. He was I think undrafted free agent or something. So the last couple guys that I mentioned, not like impact players, but Marcus Cannon, that could be a big loss too. So I'm not gonna say that this hurts their chances completely of being a good team or making the playoffs, but it definitely could hurt them for sure in the long run here. And yeah, it kind of sucks, but you always, as a Patriots fan, you always got to believe in Bill.
Yeah.
That's the whole motto. That's the whole thing about
Bill we trust.
In Bill we trust. You know what's funny? Have you heard that, or at least I read that some people are like on Twitter and stuff are commenting that this is part of Bill's plan.
Oh yeah.
They're tanking for Trevor and all that. Like, what do you think of that?
So I don't know. So my thing is like, what does Bill know that like no one else knows? Like, are we just not gonna play in the NFL season and they're just like pulling out sooner or something? But I could totally see that trying to get Trevor Lawrence, because like Cam Newton, right? He's great if he's healthy, and like who knows how healthy he could be. But right, like you've come on this pod like right after the NFL free agency, and you said that like if the Patriots are bad, like this is the season to do it. So like
it's true.
If they don't play, like if they don't have Hightower, if their linebackers are terrible, and like they just like everyone just runs on them or something, like this is pretty good. And like I don't know, maybe they are the worst team. Maybe they're like the Warriors and they are like the bottom feeders. I don't see that.
Don't say that. That's horrible. I don't want that.
Hey, you just want Trevor Lawrence. This is the tank. You got a tank, full on tank.
I don't care about. I mean, like, no. I think it would be worse to like tank a season than to get Trevor Lawrence. Like, I think it'd be worse to tank a season just for Trevor Lawrence than to like actually play. And I don't think Bill's that type of coach. Like, I legitimately don't think he would tank.
Yeah, no. And it's not like like you've already gone through the names. Like you still got Gilmore, you still got the McCourty twins. They're like they will not have a lot of linebackers because of they don't have Hightower, they don't have Anoy, they don't have Jamie Collins. And Hightower was so critical too because he could play middle, he could play outside. Like he was so versatile.
Yeah, that's true.
In that defense. So it's just weird because it's like Chung is still like a hole. Like he is like if someone gets hurt right now in the secondary, it's just like it could be worse for them. But I mean,
yeah,
they're still pretty solid. But yeah, it's just yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, didn't they picked the safety right in the was it their first pick or their second pick or something?
I think did they have a first round pick? No, right? Or
no, they traded back into the second round pick.
Right.
I'm trying to see.
They did, right? They picked some weird guy from like some school that no one heard of.
New England Patriots, Kyle Duggar. Duggar. Yeah, he was their first pick of the draft, number 37. So, you know.
So it was a great pick.
Maybe he is going to be great. Who knows, right? Like, just putting that out there, they did get a safety with their first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
So.
God, that was so weird too when they did it, and now it almost makes sense.
So now that kind of lends some credibility to the Bill Belichick being a genius, and like maybe he's orchestrating this. Oh, and another thing too is because all these players opting out adds cap space for them.
Oh, right.
So I read that I think they'll have 24 million in available cap space or something. That's what somebody on Twitter tweeted and like figured out and tweeted or something. So like maybe Bill did orchestrate this and he's looking to sign a big player or a few bigger like
Antonio Brown.
Players. Maybe if Antonio wants to come out of retirement again, you know.
God, that'd be such a mess. I don't know.
No, he would never. No one wants Antonio Brown. He's too much of a headache. Obviously, it's too much. But no, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's I don't think this is Bill's deviousness.
His sneaky,
showing.
being a little sneaky snake.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
exactly.
This is just legitimately just two people concerned about their family and decided to sit it out. So
exactly. Hightower just had a baby
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, so I mean, he's thinking about his family. I think a lot of players are thinking about their families. There's just, I mean, I wonder if this is a domino effect, right? Like maybe tomorrow or within the next couple weeks or something, maybe a bunch of players from other teams start opting out and saying, you know what, I do got to think about my family. Who knows? Like, that could be the case too.
Yeah.
Today's the Patriots, maybe tomorrow's the Cowboys, maybe the next day it's the Cardinals.
Well, I know the
maybe
Bills,
the Dolphins. Shit, like
who is
Florida's
it?
in bad shape.
Latiti? I can never say his last name. He's sitting out. Like defensive tackle or defensive lineman. Star Latifi?
Okay.
I can never say his name. Like he's not like a huge presence, but he comes on the field a decent amount of times. And like we lost oh my god, who's that? Jordan Phillips, who used to be for the Dolphins, and then when they tanked, they got rid of him, so the Bills signed him for a year, and then he was gone. I think he's on the Cardinals now or something. So like Lutili, I think was going to step in for him, and now he's not playing. So I don't know exactly why. I assume it's something similar, either a family or some health concern. So like, yeah, I could totally see other teams getting hurt by this. And so, okay, so go back to that $24 million. So, like, who do they sign, though? Because it's, it's like almost
I have
August,
no idea.
Right? Everyone's signed already, so it's just like...
There's not that many players to pick up at this point, right? So yeah. I don't know. I would think maybe older players. You know how the Patriots go. They usually pick up some older players on the cheap, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't think of any names, honestly. I just saw that it opened some cap space, and I'm like, ooh, theory.
Also, I mean, they could use it later, right? Someone could cut some player because they don't want to pay him or something. I don't know, and then like just go like we'll take them, or like what was it? The Malcolm Floyd had like a DUI, and the Patriots just like, yeah, we'll go get him.
Oh yeah, maybe.
So maybe something like that.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't really believe that part of this, I just think it's like you had mentioned earlier, it's guys that are, especially in Hightower and Chung's case, it's just guys that are looking out for their families, and they definitely don't need the money. That's, a big part of it. Yeah. And then also, I mean, shit, you're looking at the MLB with the Marlins having a big outbreak within their team, so maybe they're just, who knows if this NFL project season is even gonna end,
Yeah.
With teams traveling everywhere and whatnot, and being open to infection potentially just by not being in a bubble like the NBA is. So these guys are just thinking about their families, and you got to applaud that.
Yeah, for sure.
And luckily they're in a position that they don't need to play for the money necessarily right now.
Yeah, they're not like a practice squad player who barely makes anything.
Exactly.
And has to move like 3 times in the year. And the NFL had basically blown a 28-3 lead when it had to deal with COVID-19, because they were the only league that had time to come up with like a legitimate plan, and they squandered it.
Pretty much. And that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard. Like, my girlfriend brought this up like yesterday, where it was like the NBA and the NHL, like, it was easier to create a bubble idea because it's like basically the entire season happened, and then COVID hit, and then like, so all you gotta deal is like the playoffs. So that you could deal with like a bubble, but like, how do you do that over 4 months? Like, the players would never do that, especially if they couldn't be near their family or anything.
Yeah,
so,
very true.
I mean, I just don't know how logistically, but maybe you do like some something like the MLB was talking about, where it's like, okay, some people are in Florida, some people are in Arizona, and then maybe like do like a was it? I think Gronk has advocated for this, where it's like week 9, like everyone has a bye, so like maybe let that bye to go back and like see your family and then like come back. I don't know. But they could have thought of this if they had like the NFL has so much money. They could have had like 100 people in a room come up with this, but they didn't because they don't.
Maybe they did, and they're just not that smart.
Maybe true.
Or maybe they just don't believe science. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But
they're anti-maskers.
I mean, I wouldn't. I kind of believe it. I would believe it. You know, if someone said that, I'd believe it. So
yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't be surprising.
All right, Kyrie moving, or oh my God, Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving.
Yep, he's giving $1.5 million to the WNBA. What a great soul. I almost sounding sarcastic, but like this is a great thing that Kyrie's doing.
You did sound sarcastic.
And I love Kyrie, so this is just bad. Anyways, Justin, what are your thoughts on this giving money to them?
So like, who wouldn't applaud him for this?
Right?
Like, I just think it's obviously the WNBA is a much smaller league, much less viewership compared to the NBA or compared to most any other professional sports, at least male professional sports, right? They don't get paid a lot in comparison to NBA players, right? I read that their max salary tops out at a little more than $200,000. So, I mean, these women, and you've talked about the WNBA a lot on past podcasts. These women are really, I mean, they're at the top of the sport for women. They're insanely good. And the games are high quality, yet no one watches, and they don't get paid a lot, right? So I think Kyrie committing $1.5 million to, WNBA players that want to opt out of their season, because I think, isn't the WNBA, do they even have an opt-out like clause right now? Like,
so they like had one, right? And then this is like the whole thing with Della Dawn, where she like, I forget what it, like Lyme.
She had Lyme disease, right?
Yeah.
And she wanted to opt out, and they said no.
Yeah, which is just ridiculous. It's like
which is ridiculous because she has a higher risk of of dying potentially from COVID. So,
and she's a previous MVP. Like, why would you risk your best player for like a season that's like really doesn't count?
Mm-hmm.
It's a disgrace.
Yeah. So with the WNBA, with the Della Dawn thing, right? Like, not giving an opt out to her, I don't know the word, but allowing her to opt out. Like, I think Kyrie Irving stepping in and providing some money to give these WNBA players that, don't make nearly what he makes. I think it's a really good thing to do for them, obviously. And I just want to say about Kyrie, man, this dude, I know you love Kyrie. This dude, he seems to always be on the right side of things. Like,
except for
he's
the
always
whole,
looking out for everybody
flat
else.
Earth thing, yeah.
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, that's dumb. But at least he's curious about it, right?
Oh yeah, no, this is why I love Kyrie, because he's different. He like tries to look at things differently. But
yeah, so I mean, like, but like social issues, at least he's always on the right side, or at least the right side to us. Yeah. Some people look at it and be like, he's just an idiot. He shouldn't be doing anything. He shouldn't think this way. But like, I think to most people, he's doing the right thing. And I mean, I'm surprised other players haven't come out and said, yeah, I'll commit this much or whatever, like big star players, because shit, they play the same sport as you.
Yeah.
They're just making how much less? Like, how many times less money? Like
Oh my
100
God.
times less money? Like, I don't know, something like
Has
that.
to
Some
be.
ridiculous amount. They're making so much less money than you. Like, you should be looking out for them. I don't know. It's like $1 million to a player like Kyrie's not that much. It's not that much money. So
Oh no.
I don't know. I would just like to see more players step up like Kyrie to help out the WNBA players in this situation, because they make so much less money. They're almost forced to play because they make so much less money. It's like, nowadays with essential workers, they make like no money, so they're kind of forced to work, during this entire pandemic, and it puts them at risk, but they have to do that or else they'll go hungry or something,
Can't pay rent.
It's just a shitty situation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So I applaud Kyrie.
Yeah.
Good job.
Let's go, Kyrie.
Keep it up.
King Kyrie, praise be.
King Kyrie.
Let's see. Yeah, so like Kyrie is doing what the NBA should have done for the WNBA, and like I sometimes forget this, but like the NBA owns the WNBA, and the reason why
they do. Okay.
yeah, so the reason why the WNBA doesn't like crumble every year like other women's sports leagues is like the NBA takes the loss and it's like, okay, we'll just value that in with our like $1 billion revenue, and that's really nothing. But what they should do in this situation is cover their wages that are like minuscule to their actual revenue. Like they're not losing really TV revenue when they're doing their bubble.
True.
For Orlando. They could easily shift that over. Maybe, like, I don't know. I feel like you could agree with some of the NBA players, especially the superstar ones. It's like, hey, if we cut like 1/100th of your salary, LeBron James, like, and we gave that money to the WNBA, I definitely don't think he would care, or like other players likewise. So like also, so they're the parent organization. They should act like a parent, and help out what a literal parent would do and take care of your children, and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't know, it's just great though. I love Kyrie for doing this. I like your point on like how other NBA stars should step up and give them money. Like Damian Lillard's going to make like 40 something million either this year or next year. So I think he can afford to give some away. But it was just like,
yeah. Wouldn't that be a tax write-off too, potentially?
Probably. I don't know. It could be.
Come on.
To get that money back. But I don't know. It's just like, I feel like Kyrie is so empathetic to other people's pains, and this like goes back to that phone call he had with the National Basketball Players Associations and why he's a VP for the Players Association. It's like he cares about the Black Lives Matter movement and thought it was really weird that like, oh, all of a sudden we're just going to go play basketball when people are like actually rising up against like capitalism and racism, I guess, just like intertwined. But like he cares about people. This is like just another thing, and I don't know. It's great. It's fantastic. Go Kyrie.
Go Kyrie.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. The Knicks hired Tom Thibodeau, the I guess infamous work hard, play less, I guess, or play more, because he just plays the starters. All right. Do you think this was a good hire for the Knickerbockers?
You know what? Not sure.
Okay.
Tom Thibodeau, he is a good coach in the past. He has been a good coach, at least you can say, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like for Chicago, his first few years, he was pretty good. They went to the playoffs every year. Derrick Rose had his MVP season. He was the youngest MVP ever, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Obviously blew out his knees. Terrible, tragic. But that has nothing to do with Thibodeau, unless maybe it does, right? How you said he only plays his starters, so maybe that's a lot of wear and tear. I've never heard personally that he caused people blaming him for Derrick Rose's injuries, but I'm sure people have said that many times before, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Just because I'm not like super into the NBA like that, but I don't know. So he's a good coach, right? You can say he's been a good coach at least. But he does kind of represent the old guard of coaching that is all work, no play kind of, right?
Yeah.
He's all about just grind it out, like practice as hard as you can and blah, blah, blah. And that's not saying that's bad, but there's been more of a shift in the NBA the last few years of, coaches being players coaches and, focusing more on relationships than like being hardcore,
Yeah.
So in that aspect, I think it's kind of a bad hire, especially that, with the Timberwolves, when he was coaching for them in the last couple years or whatever, they had, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like they had young players like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of the situation he's walking into now with the Knicks. He's got young players that, maybe he can develop, but potentially he's going to run them into the ground and they get hurt, and it could end up pretty badly in that aspect. So, and he's not like a coach that has shown that he can take a team to the finals and win, right? He's not one of the best coaches like ever, right? So there's kind of a disconnect there where, he's a good coach. He's proven that he is good, but he's not great. He hasn't taken a team to the finals, let alone won one. So I don't think it's a good hire. And then also, I mean, we can get into it after you say whatever, but the Knicks in hiring head coaches, they do not have a good track record.
No, they do
all.
not.
At all.
Nope. Yeah, so like, I don't know, I've said this on this podcast before that I thought Kenny Atkinson was the right hire for where this team is. Like, he's from New York. He was literally like the coach of the Nets like last season or this season. It seems so long ago. And he took a bunch of young players to develop and created this winning culture that could ultimately lure superstars back to the Big Apple. And I feel like this is just like another typical move where they got like a big name, they like went and get Tibbs, and like they think that like he can lure those superstars, like get Giannis in 2021. It's like, oh, we got Tibbs, you could like figure it out or something. And they're gonna fail at that again, and then they're gonna sign like 12 power forwards like they did this offseason. And it's just gonna be like, it's just this constant like cycle of just like terribleness. And like, I don't know, you were talking about the finals. I don't think the Knicks should be even thinking about that. They should just be thinking about getting an 8 seed.
True.
Like, it's been
true, but like, yeah, you're right. They aren't even close to getting to the finals. Like, they need to focus on playoffs first. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so like, I feel like you either get Atkinson or you get like some almost no-name coach that is younger and can relate more with like the younger crowd or something. I think that like that goes a long way. And it's just like like the Knicks are not really that talented. Like RJ Barrett I think is okay, right? I think Knicks fans are a little hyped about RJ Barrett and think he's like the Maple Jordan or whatever.
I think he's a good player. He's a good player for sure.
Yeah. And then Mitchell Robinson, I just love him. He was such a steal. Like, you think he's talking about how bad the Jets like draft, like how bad the Knicks have drafted like the past 10 years.
God,
atrocious. And the fact that they stole him in the second round is kind of, I just think, lucky. But it's just like, I don't know. I feel like with Tibbs, like, you're just gonna play you're just gonna run them to the ground. They might start off pretty good, and then they'll just get tired, and like maybe it'll wear on their knees, or I don't know. And like they probably won't do that great anyways, just because they don't have the talent. And who knows where they'll land in the lottery? Like, they were I think with Mike Miller as their interim coach, they were doing pretty well, and they were like, I think they were 12th in the Eastern Conference, which is like so much better than the past like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they weren't like the worst team.
Yeah,
with him as the interim coach.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see though, because like when he's with Chicago, right? You had those Derrick Rose years. Like Joakim Noah was great. Luol Deng was like that was like the height of his career, and like you could say like Derrick Rose doesn't get hurt. Maybe they beat LeBron when they were the 1 seed that year. I think 2009, 2010. But it's just I don't know. I feel like it's overplayed. Like I feel like you know the playbook, and you know how this is gonna end, and it's not gonna end great. So I think it's done. So over under though, Knicks coach 3.5 years. What do you got?
Come on, under, bro. Like, come on, under.
So what do you think would be better than like 1.5?
I think 2.5.
2.5. Oh, okay.
2.5. Let's see. Yeah, I think 2.5. Yeah, I don't have faith in this hire necessarily. I don't think he's a bad coach. I just don't think he will work well. It's like if you look at, like I said before, if you look at the Timberwolves when he was their coach, it's like a similar type of roster, young roster, and they didn't do well. He didn't do well. They just sucked, and there were reports that he couldn't connect to the younger players and that they didn't like him necessarily. So I feel like that happens here, and the Knicks also have been horrible in the past 30 years, whatever. They've been horrible.
Yes.
And they have a horrible front office, and they just don't have a good track record, right? They have not shown that they can develop their players well, first off, and second off, keep them happy. There's always players that they always want to leave, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to stay. They don't want to play for them. And like I said earlier, I wanted to look at their past coaches, their at least recent coaches, right? So let's just say in the past 10 years, they had Mike D'Antoni from 2008 to 2012. He was okay for them, right? Yeah. After that, they hired Mike Woodson, 2012 to 14 for 2 years. That's 2. Derek Fisher next, 2014 and 2016. That's 3. 2016, they hired Kurt Rambis, and he didn't last at all.
Yeah.
That's 4. Then they had Jeff Hornacek, or Hornacek, I don't. For a couple years, 2016 to 18. That's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's Fizz, right?
And then David Fizdale for like a season and like a 10th or something.
Yeah.
Or he was like no. That's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 coaches. And then Mike Miller, interim head coach. That's 7. And now 8. He's Thibodeau is the 8th head coach in 10 years for the Knicks.
That's
8th
incredible.
head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Knicks are the exact opposite of consistency, unless you're talking about being consistently bad. Then they are the kings of consistency. Yeah. So I don't know how you could think that this is going to turn the ship around. This is going to right the ship, because at this point, it's not the coach. It could be the players, but I'm leaning more towards it's the front office and it's the owner.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people talk shit about James Dolan, how he runs the team. I tend to agree with that at some point he has to take responsibility that he's not running the team correctly, and he's not hiring the right people, and he's the one that's hurting their chances to become an actual good NBA team. And you know what's crazy too, in the NBA, there's a lot of teams that they're trash. They're horrible. They're not good for like a few years, and then they get good. Like the Sixers. The Sixers, after AI and Iguodala left a few years after that, they were not good. They were horrible. They were so bad.
Process, bro.
They were the worst team.
Yeah.
And then what happened? They came back. They made correct hires. They got the right people in. They got good players through the draft and whatnot, and they went to the finals last year or whatever, right? Like not the finals, the conference finals, right?
No, they went to the conference semifinals.
Semifinals. Yeah. Okay, you're right.
They're great.
But they were good.
They're very good.
They were really fucking good. They lost to a last second amazing, like, iconic shot from Kawhi.
Hell yeah, they did.
Like, that's how they lost. Like, that game was so close, and they just lost it. Like, that team is good. That is a very good team still. And they came from the gutter. The Nets were really bad in the past, before 2 years ago or something. They were like trash. They were a horrible team. When they were the New Jersey Nets, not very good, and then they moved to Brooklyn. They got the right players, right coaches, whatever.
So
they came from the gutter too. Like
early 2000s Nets though were pretty good.
Yeah, but they had a run for a few years where they were not good.
Yeah, no, true.
They were not good at all, and now they're actually relevant. And they got Kyrie and Kevin Durant now, so they're making the right moves. And the Knicks just are allergic to hiring the right people. They're allergic to it. They just can't do it.
Starts at the top.
And so
it is.
Exactly.
It starts at the top.
So I don't see how this one hire you can look at it and say, like, you know what, I think it'll be good. I think Thibodeau will do a good job here. I just don't think it's something that a coach himself can fix.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And the ownership is just failing the organization. And they're still making boatloads of money because they're the Knicks. That's it.
Exactly. It's just so maddening because he, not only does he own the Knicks, not only does he own the Rangers, but he also owns MSG and makes all the money from all the concerts that are there too. It's just he doesn't care. I don't think he's like Dan Snyder owner level.
Oh my God.
Where he doesn't care about the product, he just cares about the money.
They're trash tier owners,
Yeah, exactly.
They're just like the lowest tier of owners. Are there any other league owners or team owners that you would put down at that level?
So I forget his name. I think it's Will McNair, the Texans owner for Houston. I think he's pretty bad. I think he said
Bob McNair?
Or Bob McNair, yeah, thank you.
Didn't he die?
Oh, maybe. But
I think he died in 2018. Let's see. Yeah, he did. He died in 2018.
Never mind then. Well,
but before that, right?
Yeah.
He said we can't let the inmates run the jail or something.
Yeah,
or the
something
prison.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That was definitely bad.
That was pretty bad.
It's Donald Sterling, another racist.
Oh yeah,
owner.
Yep.
I can't think. Oh, the Suns one is pretty bad. I think Robert Sarver.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a story where he brought a goat in to the GM's office on the first day. I don't even remember why, and then it ate up all the furniture in. So it's happy first day. It's ridiculous, but this is what this guy does because he's insane. But yeah,
also the Suns.
Yeah.
Not that good. Not very good for a while either.
Suns. All right, just to close out with the Knicks, I really like your good coach, bad fit. I feel that's really just Tibbs.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically, that's a great summarization of the past 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, moving on to Lou Williams and his amazing strip club chicken wings. So he went to the infamous Atlanta strip club, Magic City, to go get some chicken wings and hang out with his friends. Which, by the way, he has a flavor named after him at this strip club. Um, but yeah, so he was excused to leave the bottle to attend a funeral. And then rapper Jack Harlow, who I have no idea who that is, added to an Instagram story. And then he quickly deleted it, and like everyone saw it, screenshotted it, shared it, everywhere. And now he was issued, well, not now, I think Sunday, he was issued a 10-day quarantine, which I believe started on Sunday. So he'll be, what was it, Wednesday of next week, I believe. So
I believe the 5th.
Yeah.
That should be either the last day or when he should be done.
Right. But I guess, do you think this was fair?
First of all, you don't know who Jack Harlow is, bro?
No, I don't. I guess.
He only has like one song that I know. What's poppin'?
Okay. I'll have to look him up.
All right. Just a little side note there. Anyways, so do I think it's fair that Lou Williams was given a 10-day quarantine by the NBA? I mean, I think it's fair. I know what are the different levels, right? They can make you do a 4-day. Is it just 4 and 10, or is it anything in between? I think it's fair. I don't know. I think though they only gave it to him because the story came out that he went to a strip club. And at face value, that sounds really bad, right? Like, okay, this dude had an excused absence to go to a funeral, and then he was seen at a strip club. Like, that headline sounds really bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's mostly why they gave him the 10-day quarantine. But then again, he did go out to eat at a sit-down place. I mean, and I know, so here in California, the restaurants are closed for dine-in. They're still open for pickup or delivery or whatever, unless you have outdoor seating, and then you can dine in, but you're technically dining outside, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Do strip clubs have that?
I don't know. Can you? You can't strip outside, right? Like.
Well, so apparently there were no strippers there because you're.
Oh, right.
I guess they're still technically closed necessarily. They're just, I guess, open for food. So it's not like he was there, throwing money at strippers or anything. So, but like I said, like, if he was eating out, it had to have been inside. And I don't know anything about Georgia law or laws in Atlanta or whatever right now, but I've seen that studies say that contraction of COVID indoors is much, much, much more likely than contraction of COVID outdoors, and that's why LA and California have the law or the rules right now that you can only dine in if you're outside. So, with that said, I think that the 10-day quarantine given to Lou Williams is legitimate, just because if he's eating with his mask off, well, obviously he's eating with his mask off, but if he's eating at an establishment indoors, there's a lot more chance of him contracting COVID, if he was outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
As opposed to if he was outside. So I think it's fair that he was given the longer of the quarantine. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so there was no way he was gonna get the 4-day one. Like, he had to get the 10-day one. So, like, forget that it's a strip club, right? Like he's in a building that, like, I didn't even know that they didn't have strippers there, but like there's probably still playing loud music, so you're probably talking louder, which will like create more spit particles and stuff, which is like even worse than if you just went to like a legitimate restaurant and like it was like packed or something. And it's like you don't know how many people are there, you don't know how long he's staying there, you don't really know the story. Um, but it's just like it's out there, and it's by far it's like the worst one of this like bubble where someone has to quarantine. Like because Rashawn Holmes like was like 50 feet across the line in the bubble to get like takeout food and had to quarantine for 10 days. So how would like Lou Williams um, leaving the bubble and going to a crowded restaurant like that? I feel like you have to rule that the same way. And so and then Georgia's governor Brian Kemp is like notorious for being a shitty person. Like just the way he basically blocked Stacey Abrams and like everyone voting in Georgia by like rescinding their ballots. He has like gone out of his way to make like Atlanta's governor or not governor, mayor, I forget her first name, but something Bottoms. She was like, we're gonna do a mask, like everyone has to wear masks when you go into any like Atlanta building, and then he like blocked it with some. He's like, I'm the governor, like you can't do that or something. So he's like a piece of shit. So I think Georgia's
Sounds
rules
like
are
it.
super lax, like with this whole COVID thing. So,
Okay.
which I don't know, makes sense. It's more Republican and stuff. But anyways, yeah, I think it's fair 10-day quarantine. So how do you think this is going to affect the Clippers going forward?
Okay. So they are second right now in the West, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're how many games back are they? Like 5 games or something from the Lakers?
Oh yeah, they're not catching.
Yeah, so they can't make like first place basically, right? So in that aspect, like, because I think first place is really important, right?
Yeah.
He's only gonna miss based on this quarantine. He's only gonna miss 3 games out of I don't know how many games, but
8.
He's gonna miss out of 8 games. Okay, yeah. So he's gonna miss 3 games. Let's say they lose all 3 games. That could drop him back down to the 4th or 5th seed potentially. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, it can hurt them, but I think the Clippers are a good enough team without Lou Williams, where they can win at least like 1 or 2 of those games. You know, I don't think it hurts them that much, honestly, because they're mostly just playing for the playoffs. They're a strong team. It's not like he's going to be quarantined when the playoffs start. So I think that's the most important part of this, is that he's going to be back well before the playoffs start. So I don't think it really affects them that much. And they should still win most of their games if they're in the same form as they were pre-COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is like the deepest team in the NBA. But so like I was gonna just say, oh yeah, that won't affect him. He doesn't play the first 3 games in Orlando. But like looking more into this, like there's a ton of Clippers players that have either left the bubble or like have to quarantine at least for 4 days because they've left. It's like Beverly, Harrell, Zubac, Shamet, and Williams, like all left in some capacity. So it's just like that's a lot of people. like that's like a third of your team. And these are all players that like somewhat play. I feel like Shamet's kind of taking a back seat just because there's too many guys there. But like Zubac gets minutes. The Harrell Lou like pick and roll is like so much fun to watch, and they utilize that all the time. And Patrick Beverley's everyone's favorite underdog, I guess. Or I think a decent amount of people hate him. Or I guess Westbrook fans hate him. But
he's like a dog.
That's what he's great.
He's just like always, just like never stops, never just plays hard defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like I want to say it's fine, but like maybe it's not. I don't know. Like it's just there's just so many players that are out, and I don't know exactly like who's. Like I think Beverly came back like yesterday, and I think he can just do the 4-day thing. So he should be. He might not play Thursday, but like he'll probably be able to play Saturday or whenever their next game is. But yeah, I think that's enough of the Lou Williams talk. But I guess anyways, Battle of LA though, because it's in your city. Who do you think's gonna win Thursday night?
I mean, I think the Lakers are gonna win, but that's more so because I like their team more. I like LeBron a lot more than really anybody on the Clippers. Although I like Paul George, he's cool. I don't know. I think the Lakers, and this is all based on like nearing the end of when the season got postponed, right? So I think the Lakers were coming on really, really strong and looking really good at that time. And obviously knowing LeBron's work ethic, seeing him, him and Anthony Davis working this whole time, or at least more recently with Anthony Davis, but LeBron always working hard, and I think they are going to be ready. I'm sure the Clippers will be too, but I just think the Lakers had looked like they gelled a lot better by the end, nearing the postponement of the season. So based on that, I think the Lakers are gonna come out on top, at least in this first game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, even with all the Lakers, like no Rondo, no Avery Bradley, like I think they should win. Especially like if Beverly's not playing, if Lou Williams isn't playing, like who's their point guard? So,
true.
I mean, I assume Paul George would just bring up the ball or something. But I don't know, I just like the Clippers team more in general when they're all there.
Yeah, that's true because it's just about to start. Lou Williams out, all these other players out, so kind of changes the conversation a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't ever count out Kawhi though.
No, you can't.
You can never count out Kawhi, so it should be a good game nonetheless. I'm glad it's starting soon on Thursday, man.
Yeah, it's a playoff game. Like even the game in like February or March, like that, just had so much importance to it. Like, I can't wait. It's so exciting. 2 more days. Let's go. All right, MLB restart. So, what was it? The Miami Marlins had a bunch of people that got COVID, so they postponed their games against the Phillies and the Yankees. Is that right? Or
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All right, just like I guess with the whole Major League Baseball plan and like now like that their season might be in jeopardy because of this COVID outbreak. What are your just like thoughts on this restart?
I feel like it's crazy because the MLB, the shutdown and everything, quarantine, all happened right before the season was going to start, like a week or two before the season was going to start. So they kind of, in a way, had like the least time. Like, well, you said earlier how the NFL had the most time to figure out a plan, and they kind of fumbled it. The MLB kind of had a shorter amount of time to try to get it figured out, but they probably should have got it figured out earlier. And they could have done that like a bubble potentially. They were talking about doing a bubble. It's a little harder because they have larger rosters though, so kind of understandable. I just think, I don't know, the Marlins of all teams having an outbreak, that's not surprising. They are in Florida, which is now the hot spot of COVID in the U.S. People there mostly seem to not care about wearing masks and being safe. It just kind of sucks because I was excited. I'm a Yankees fan, and I was excited about the season starting. They played against the Nationals for the first couple games, and now their games are suspended. I I don't know if all the games are suspended. It might be how the NBA was when the Nuggets players like contracted
Oh, right.
COVID, where like any team that's like gonna play. Oh yeah, so they're still playing. It's
Yeah.
just not the teams that did play and are gonna play the Marlins. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
Though
it's just
oh
tough.
yeah, the Phillies, right? Because the Marlins played the Phillies, so they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
Phillies can't play right now because of maybe they got exposed to it. They might have it. So it's just a shit show really, and I feel like they need to take more precaution about like with this. Like 70 players on your roster got COVID. That's insane.
Damn, I didn't even know it was that high. I thought it was like
Yeah,
six.
it was 17. The
Ooh.
first report was like 11, like a few days ago or something, and then today there was a report that it was 17 players and coaches.
Damn.
So it's just like, it's insane because it's just spreading like crazy now. You would think that they would have more precautions about that, but I guess not, and kind of paying the price for it, and hopefully no one on the teams die from it because that would be tragic. But it just shows how fragile this situation is. So that kind of lends back to Lou Williams, the quarantine.
Yeah.
Like the NBA is doing its best to try to like make sure like, hey, we don't want this in the bubble. We're gonna do whatever it takes to keep COVID out of the bubble, because if someone gets it, then you gotta shut the whole thing down or close to it,
Yeah.
potentially. So it's a fragile situation, and hopefully this helps the MLB and other leagues enact stricter policies to keep COVID out of their leagues, because there's financial ramifications for that too.
Yeah.
So they just gotta barricade up and try to make sure it doesn't affect them.
Gotcha. Yeah. So like with the NBA bubble too, right? Like with one person can screw the whole thing up. Because like if one person gets it, then you could spread it to like 10. It could be different teams, and then you just have to totally shut down. Which is, I wouldn't be surprised if MLB like next week is just like, okay, we have to stop, because it's like, what if the Phillies players get it and then they can play like games in like 2 days and they don't have the virus, or it's not like visible, and then they contracted other players and it's just like a mess. But I don't know how, because it's not a bubble, so you can't really monitor what the players are doing. And like these guys are, younger, like in their 20s, 30s. Maybe they're more like seasoned, and maybe older, they have families, maybe they're more concerned. But it's just like, and like you said, the rosters are so big that like one person can get it, it can affect the whole team, and then it might be too late. Like they might have already played for a week. Like systems don't come up for 7 days or something.
Yeah.
So it's just like, this is just like another case of why like sports maybe shouldn't be played right now, just because of like how fragile it is. But I do think the NBA like has the best situation, and there's like nothing you could add to it really. That could be like, oh, they should have done this, they should have done that. Like it's flawless in my opinion. But
it's as best as it could be right now for sure.
Yeah,
I think
this could change in a day, or when this comes out tomorrow.
All you need is one infection, and then it's all down. It's all just shut down.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So, my dad was happy though with the baseball restart, because he's the baseball fan of the fam. And he's a Mets fan, so it's it's a rough life, but 86 is a good year for the Mets. All right, moving on to, I guess, a little political side. So Seattle protests. So I guess over the weekend, and I think like last week, there were some hints that like Trump and like the federal government were gonna bring like federal agents like they were doing in Portland, Oregon, and move those to Seattle. So I was like checking the news, and like there's a big protest. I think Saturday Sunday, um, and like they clashed with officers. And like when I saw it, like I thought it was federal officers like doing the dirty work, but it was actually just the Seattle police. Like the federal agents weren't really doing anything. They were just, I think, like planning to go there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then the protesters set aflame to like construction trailers outside of a juvenile detention center, and the police responded with like using flashbang grenades and tear gas, which personally I just think is like slightly justified. Like if you torch shit up, like you should, like they're gonna flashbang it. The tear gas definitely not, but like I don't know, they're gonna do stuff to mess you up. So I guess like it happened, like it's been happening in Portland, like even like this weekend too. Like there's still people outside of the Justice Building, like agents protecting it. I think I read on the Hill that the federal agents are pulling out of Seattle and out of Washington, which is great. But just like you're in LA, like San Francisco, like this is the whole West Coast is just more progressive. Could be more of a tactic for Trump to like steer away from his whole mishandling of COVID and just like be like all these Antifa people. Like, do you think more things like this will happen like LA or like even the Pacific Northwest?
Well, I'll say Seattle's kind of wild because they had the CHOP or Chaz zone, or whatever, where they just like completely like block. It was just a what would you call that?
It was
police free zone, something like that.
I forgot what they called it, but they just like occupied like downtown Seattle.
Yeah, so that's kind of wild because I mean, I don't think any other cities had any place like that.
No, I don't think so.
Any zone like that where it was just people just went there, barricaded up, and blocked out all law enforcement and had tents and just like lived there as an autonomous zone. Like
that's the word,
autonomous zone. Yeah. I don't know. So Seattle's kind of an outlier with that stuff, I believe. And then obviously there was violence in the autonomous zone, and then it got they basically just broke it down and like forced people out and arrested people or whatever. Yeah. But I don't know. I think the whole Portland thing with the federal agents, that was horrible. That's just wrong. You know, you have federal agents with no badges, renting vans and just grabbing people from the streets and throwing them in the back of the van. Like that's just not right. Yeah. So I think that definitely reignited protests and subsequently riots. About Seattle specifically, I think I would kind of agree with you that, you know, during the protest that turned into a riot, obviously we don't know why it did. I tend to think that the riots don't help, especially if it's I just think that like the Seattle riot, from what I saw from it, like this past weekend, it was mostly probably just wrong and probably instigated, honestly, by people that might not have been there for the protests purpose, probably just there to start riots. Yeah. So in that instance, them setting fire to buildings and whatnot, you know, it's kind of justifiable for the police to try to clear out the area and everything. I did read that yes, they didn't deploy any federal agents in Seattle. They did bring them there, and then they were just like sitting by or whatever. They weren't like out doing anything, and then they were instructed to pull out or something. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that, because we definitely don't need 21st century Gestapo in the U.S. That's not all right. Like, I don't think that would happen in L.A. There haven't really been any riots here for a few weeks now. So there's still protests, obviously. But yeah, nothing's been escalated to that level, at least in this area in LA. So that's good. I mean, yeah. So I don't know what else to say, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair.
What do you say?
It's just kind of weird. So like, I lived in Portland for like 2 years. I wasn't there for too long, but like, I attended some like coalitions, and I feel like Portland's a pretty like activist city. And there would be people, like, I would go to like these events, and people would try to like brainstorm for like activism and organizing, and there'd be people from Seattle like complaining about how like bad Portland is at organizing. And I was like, what? Like, how is that a thing? And then I see stuff like this, and like, I've heard that they're like emergency call network, and like they're just like underground like scene is like so organized and so intertwined.
They're hardcore, huh?
Yeah. And like, especially like with like the eco activists, like they'll, you know, barricade themselves in front of buildings, and like they're like a whole nother level. So it's not surprising that they like decided to turn it up more. And I was just kind of surprised that like I felt like this is the first time where like something happened to Portland and affected Seattle, because it's like it's almost always the other way around, right? Like with like grunge music, and I guess like software companies, or just like bigger companies moving out there. Yeah, I don't know. So I just want to applaud Jay Inslee, the governor of Washington, for expelling the Gestapo officers. Because right, they're just taking people unmarked, in unmarked vans, no badges, and just like giving them felonies for really not doing much. Like the Portland protests before this happened were just people like in their own neighborhoods, or like standing outside the Justice Center just doing peaceful stuff. And like they tear gassed Ted Wheeler, like their mayor. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And I don't know. I feel like it's a mess when you're not there, but I feel like if you are living in like Seattle or Portland, it's probably not that bad. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I've actually never been to either city.
Yeah.
So.
It's great. It's a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Portland over Seattle, obviously, but yeah, it's a good time. All right, I think that concludes this week's Snowflake Sports podcast. Thank you, Joe, for coming on. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It was nice.
Yeah,
good talk.
Yeah, great pod. Please follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the Snowflake Sports Pod on Instagram at Snowflake Sports Pod. My Twitter is Lucky Profession. Joe, what's your Twitter?
My Twitter, I think it's JD Crespo 52.
Nice. You can follow
something
Joe.
Like that.
He is very sport and politically savvy, so that's all his tweets too. So
yeah, it's actually JD Crespo 92. That's what it is.
Gotcha. Yeah. So follow us, see what we are tweeting about. But all right.
Mostly just retweets for me.
Yeah, true. With likes,
But yeah,
constant likes. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.